Alan Rickman, the iconic British actor known for his captivating performances, had a life filled with both triumphs and tragedies. While he was celebrated for his roles as Severus Snape in Harry Potter and Hans Gruber in Die Hard, his personal story is layered with poignant and lesser-known details that paint a picture of a man who lived through personal loss, creative struggles, and even untimely death. Alan Rickman's rise to fame wasn't instant. He started his career later than most actors, with his first major role in Die Hard coming at age 42. Before that, he had worked in theater and as a graphic designer. In fact, he didn't even consider acting seriously until his 20s, and even then, he was more focused on stage performances than film. It wasn't until his role as the villainous Hans Gruber in Die Hard that his career began to truly soar. In hindsight, it's tragic that he didn't get to enjoy a longer period of widespread fame before he passed away, leaving the world wanting more. Rickman's mother, Margaret, passed away when he was just 8 years old. Her death left a deep scar on him, which he spoke about in interviews later in life. In many ways, it shaped his quiet, reflective personality and the complexity of his roles. Alan never really got over the loss of his mother, and it informed much of his approach to his acting. There was always an underlying sadness and depth to his portrayals, especially in roles like Snape, which required a mastery of restraint and emotional complexity. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of Rickman's personal life was his long, secretive love affair with actress Rima Horton. The two had been together for over 40 years, but they never married. Rickman often described Horton as his greatest love, yet they never publicly discussed their relationship in detail. After his death, it came to light that they had been quietly living together, and many of Rickman's most personal thoughts were shared with her alone. It's tragic that a love so deep and enduring remained largely a private story. Despite his early success, Alan Rickman found himself frequently typecast as the villain because of his role as Hans Gruber in Die Hard and his portrayal of the sinister Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. He once confessed that he grew frustrated with being offered similar roles that emphasized his commanding voice and imposing presence. However, his range was vast, from playing a romantic lead in Truly, Madly, Deeply to portraying an insecure, tortured teacher in Harry Potter. It's tragic that Rickman struggled to break free from the villainous typecast when he clearly had the ability to shine in a broader array of roles. Alan Rickman's death at the age of 69 was shrouded in tragedy, partly because he kept his battle with cancer a secret. He had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, a notoriously aggressive and difficult-to-treat form of cancer, and he died just months after the diagnosis. Even those closest to him didn't know how ill he was. His death came just 5 months after his diagnosis, leaving his fans and friends in shock. His sudden passing at the peak of his career, he had just completed his role as Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility and was about to embark on new projects, felt like the world had lost one of its most enigmatic and gifted actors far too soon. Although Rickman's portrayal of Severus Snape became legendary, there's an intriguing and tragic element to his involvement in the Harry Potter series. Rickman had been given a glimpse of Snape's fate in J.K. Rowling's books well before the rest of the cast, but he was sworn to secrecy about the character's eventual redemption arc. He often commented that he played Snape with an understanding of the character's true motivations, but never publicly revealed how closely he identified with the role. Tragically, he passed away just a few years after completing the final film, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. In many ways, Snape's journey mirrored Rickman's own. He was always a misunderstood figure who was later revealed to have a depth of heart and sacrifice beneath the surface. Rickman's own journey, full of secret pain, could have been understood more deeply if he had lived longer. Rickman's legendary role as Hans Gruber in Die Hard almost never happened. The studio originally wanted a more typical action movie villain, someone who could deliver a traditional, less subtle performance. However, Rickman's interpretation of the character, which he imbued with charm, wit, and an unexpected vulnerability, transformed Gruber into one of cinema's most memorable antagonists. It's tragic that, if he hadn't convinced the producers, we might never have experienced Rickman's mesmerizing take on the role that made him an international star. Although Rickman was private and often reserved in interviews, he was known for his generosity behind the scenes. He supported various charities and causes, particularly those related to the arts and cancer research. He often donated anonymously to these causes, choosing to keep his good deeds out of the public eye. Tragically, the news of his charitable contributions was overshadowed by his death, leaving many unaware of the quiet impact he had made beyond the screen. Alan Rickman's life and career are full of profound, bittersweet stories. His complex characters and the profound depth he brought to his roles were a reflection of the struggles he faced in his personal life. His untimely passing is a loss not only to the world of film but also to those who admired him as an artist and a human being. Alan Sidney Patrick Rickman was born on February 21, 1946, in Hammersmith, London, to a working-class family. His mother, Margaret Doreen, was a housewife, and his father, Dennis Rickman, worked as a factory worker and later a chemist. Rickman had a younger brother, Michael, and the family lived in modest circumstances. Growing up in post-war London, he was surrounded by the struggles and resilience typical of working-class life at the time. His early environment would instill in him a sense of determination and a deep appreciation for the arts, which would later become his passion. One of the most significant events of Rickman's childhood was the death of his mother when he was just 8 years old. Margaret Rickman passed away in 1954 from breast cancer, a loss that would profoundly affect him for the rest of his life. In interviews, Rickman reflected on how his mother's death left a gaping hole in his young life, something that was never fully healed. His father, who was described as a strict and emotionally distant figure, struggled to cope with the loss, and this led to an emotionally difficult household environment. The impact of his mother's death shaped much of Rickman's personality and approach to life. He often described himself as a loner in his youth, and many of his most emotionally complex roles later in life, particularly Severus Snape in Harry Potter, reflected the quiet, reserved, and somewhat melancholic traits that were likely developed in the wake of such early trauma. Despite the challenges at home, Rickman was a bright and promising student. He attended Latimer Upper School in West London, where he began to show an early interest in the arts. He was involved in school plays and developed a love for the theater. He was particularly drawn to art and design, and at one point, he considered pursuing a career in graphic design or illustration. Rickman's artistic abilities didn't go unnoticed, and after finishing school, he went on to study at the Chelsea College of Art and Design. He later attended RADA, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, a prestigious drama school, at the age of 18. Although he was initially inclined toward the visual arts, Rickman ultimately found his true calling in acting, a decision that would define his life and career. During his teenage years, Rickman had a somewhat strained relationship with his father, who remarried after the death of his mother. The emotional distance between them, coupled with his father's gruff and authoritative nature, contributed to Rickman's sense of being misunderstood. This was a period of internal conflict for Rickman, as he began to embrace the arts while dealing with family tensions and the lingering grief from his mother's death. He later admitted that he didn't fully understand how much he had been affected by his mother's death until much later in life, and that her absence had cast a long shadow over his personal and professional development. He would often mention how much he missed her, particularly as he grew older and faced the emotional complexities of adulthood. Although Rickman initially studied graphic design, his passion for acting eventually took precedence. He went on to pursue formal drama training at RADA, where he honed his craft. His time at RADA was crucial to his development as an actor. It gave him the technical foundation and confidence he needed to pursue a career on stage. He graduated in 1972 and quickly made a name for himself in the theater world. Rickman's early years in the theater were foundational to his acting style, which would later be characterized by its precision, depth, and emotional range. Alan Rickman's career was nothing short of extraordinary, marked by a striking versatility and a knack for inhabiting characters that ranged from the charmingly sinister to the tragically romantic. His career spanned more than 4 decades, during which he became one of the most beloved and respected actors in both theater and film. Born in London in 1946, Rickman's early years were rooted in the world of art and design. He studied graphic design and worked in advertising before his passion for acting led him to the prestigious Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA. It wasn't long before his captivating presence on stage began to attract attention. Rickman made his professional stage debut in 1976, but it was his portrayal of the volatile and complex Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility, 1995, that marked his breakout on the big screen. Yet, it was another role that would cement his place in film history. In 1988, Rickman delivered a career-defining performance as the suave, calculating Hans Gruber in Die Hard. As the master villain, he stole every scene with his charismatic menace, creating an iconic antagonist that would influence action films for years to come. His deep, resonant voice and the meticulous craft he brought to his characters made him an actor who could turn even the most diabolical roles into memorable performances. Though he was often cast as a villain, Rickman was far more than just the bad guy. His range was immense. He was the romantic, albeit tortured, Severus Snape in the Harry Potter series, imbuing the character with layers of ambiguity and melancholy that made him one of the most complex figures in the franchise. His portrayal of Snape was both heart-wrenching and captivating, earning him a lasting place in the hearts of fans around the world. But he wasn't limited to dark characters. He also played the suave, charming Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility and even brought levity to roles like the roguish Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, 1991, a performance that was as entertaining as it was wickedly fun. Rickman's genius was in his ability to balance the dramatic with the comedic, the light with the dark. He was just as comfortable with Shakespeare as he was with science fiction. His long list of credits includes everything from Galaxy Quest, 1999, where he played the disillusioned actor Alexander Dane, to the romantic period drama Truly, Madly, Deeply, 1990, where he portrayed a ghost who returns to comfort his grieving partner. Each performance, no matter how different the genre, bore Rickman's unmistakable stamp of thoughtful, nuanced artistry. What set Alan Rickman apart was not only his acting chops, but also his commitment to the craft. He was a master of the stage and screen, known for his methodical preparation and his dedication to bringing authenticity to every role. Beyond his performances, he was also a director and producer, with several critically acclaimed works in the theater, such as My Name is Rachel Corrie and The Winter's Tale at the London's prestigious West End. Rickman's legacy is defined by his commitment to storytelling and his ability to make every character, no matter how large or small, unforgettable. He was, in the truest sense of the word, an actor's actor, one who brought a richness to every role, who treated each line of dialogue with the reverence of a poet, and whose nuanced performances became lessons in acting for both audiences and aspiring actors alike. Alan Rickman passed away in 2016, but his contributions to the arts and his unforgettable portrayals in both beloved and iconic roles have solidified his place as one of the finest actors of his generation. Whether he was playing the villain, the lover, or the tortured soul, Rickman's career was a testament to the transformative power of acting and his ability to make us feel, think, and remember. Alan Rickman passed away on January 14, 2016, at the age of 69, after a quiet and private battle with pancreatic cancer. His death was met with an outpouring of grief from fans, fellow actors, and colleagues around the world, all of whom mourned the loss of a true talent, a beloved actor, and a deeply thoughtful person. Rickman had kept his diagnosis largely private, a reflection of his reserved nature. Only a few close friends and family were aware of his illness, and he continued to work even while undergoing treatment. In fact, his final on-screen appearance was in Eye in the Sky, 2015, where he played a high-ranking military officer in a tense political thriller about drone warfare. He had also been working on other projects, including a stage production of My Name is Rachel Corrie, which had been a passion project of his in the years leading up to his death. His passing was especially poignant because it occurred so soon after his diagnosis. Rickman's illness had been kept out of the public eye until shortly before his death. It was only in the days after his passing that it became known that he had been battling cancer for some time. Many people who had worked with Rickman throughout his career were shocked by the news, as he had always maintained a composed and professional demeanor even as his health deteriorated. Though Rickman's life was cut short, his legacy continues to endure. His work in film, television, and theater remains as powerful and resonant as ever. His portrayal of Severus Snape, in particular, is considered one of the most memorable and nuanced performances in cinematic history. Rickman's Snape, whose character evolved from a seemingly villainous figure to one of the most complex and tragically heroic characters in the Harry Potter universe, captured the hearts of millions, leaving an emotional impact that still resonates with fans around the world. In addition to his film roles, Rickman's contributions to the stage are fondly remembered. He was a respected director and an actor whose mastery of language and deep understanding of Shakespeare made him a respected figure in the theater community. Whether playing villains, heroes, or tragic figures, Rickman brought intelligence, humanity, and wit to every role he inhabited. His death was a great loss not just to the world of entertainment, but also to all who appreciated his artistry and his generosity of spirit. But even in death, Alan Rickman lives on through his body of work and the enduring impact he had on the craft of acting. His performances continue to be celebrated, and his legacy remains an inspiration to actors, filmmakers, and fans alike.